Welcome to Army Fitness. My name is Dwayne and I'm your host. On this channel we're going to be speaking about everything wellness. I'm going to be bringing on industry experts to help me in a lot of the conversations we have with awesome people who have done amazing things with their life. This channel is all geared around wellness and how to find a perfect balance in your life to allow you to be the healthiest, happiest person you can be. I hope you enjoy. Sit tight, listen up and get involved. Guys, I'm here today with two really special guests. We've got Barry Holland, running legend, and Leah Gendra. And we're going to be speaking running. We're going to be speaking a little bit about longevity and just health, fitness, and really we want to learn as much as we can from you about running and longevity. It's super interesting how you've managed to start running, or Comrades really, at the age of 20 and then do 47 consecutive Comrades, going for your 48th. We obviously want you to get to 50, but you know, the conversation today is about running and it's about Comrades, but it's more than that too, because just your average person is going to want to know how we can stay so fit, how we can stay so healthy, and how we can stay so focused on something, because it's about, the achievement is bigger than just running. Like if you could stay that focused on anything in life, it just shows what you can achieve over time, you know?
Indeed, yeah.
So welcome, first
thank
of all.
you, thank you. I've got longevity because I'm 68, so I know about longevity.
And you look fantastic. I was just saying to you, I was like, hey Barry, are you in the gym somewhere? I mean, you look fantastic. You're 68 years old, but really you've got the body of a 30-year-old. So
yeah, I eat very well, and I eat a keto diet, so I'm basically in ketosis most of the time when I run, and that's been an absolute revelation for me, and we'll maybe touch on that a bit more later on. But yeah, so I ran last Comrades feeling absolutely unbelievable, best I felt in a decade, you know, and that was just a change of life and a different way of living my life and different way of eating. But the longevity thing, I think, is so important for runners coming into the sport, because not everybody is going to head out and run 47 Comrades. I mean, not everybody's that stupid. But I think the key to that whole longevity is being clever. And I've always rated myself as a clever runner. And if you use your head when you're running and you're training, then I think you can ensure your longevity. And I see it every day with our friends within our club, within our community. I see the overtraining that takes place. And I just say, you know, I'm not there to attack people, but I just do say that those are stupid runners, and stupid runners will not have the same longevity that I've enjoyed. And the key, I think, there's a couple of real building blocks in there for me. I think number one will definitely be the fact that you've got to listen to your body. Listening to your body is absolutely critical, because you can go and train, and I've trained in my time to produce the sort of times I've produced over my career. I've trained very, very hard. You know, I've trained at 150, 160, 170 kilometers in a week. And now that's a lot of running. It's a huge amount of running. But all the time, listening to my body, and never scared to say, wow, woke up in the morning, I'm not running today. I'm just not running, because I can feel that I'm just exhausted. And great Bruce Fordyce, as we all know, you know, obviously famous, maybe one of South Africa's most famous runners ever. And Bruce and I are very good friends. But Bruce taught us so many lessons about running. And one of the things he taught us is that when you get the plods, we used to call it the plods, when you are now so tired and you should be resting, the only thing that you get if you carry on running after you've got the plods is the super plods. And he used to call it the super plods. And what a lesson that is. So when you've got the plods, the only way to fix that is to rest. So that building block in your training and your training programs is that guys don't understand that four-letter word rest, how important rest is. It is a critical part of training. More is not more. Less is more, very, very often in quality training programs. And I've mentored so many runners over the years, and I build in rest. And I am at pains to tell them, guys, when I say rest, I mean rest. And that's not going to the gym that's not doing something else. Just say, well, I won't run, but I'm going to go now swim 2 kilometers, or I'm going to, is rest, and it's proper rest. And so that, those building blocks of saying, okay, rest when I should rest, those are critical, because if you have a decent and a quality training program, rest is a key part of it, and that allows you to listen to your body. And sometimes your rest is built in as a set, on that day I'm supposed to be resting. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hold on, I know that I'm just too tired. I'm too tired. I must have a rest today. I must not run. So listening to my body has been an absolute key to my longevity. No shadow of a doubt.
Do you think when people look at you or meet you for the first time, they automatically associate Comrades? So like Comrades Marathon, Barry Holland, same sentence.
I would think so. Now that I hold the record for the most medals in history of the race, and they're also consecutive. So yes, I'm associated obviously with Comrades, and I don't have the quality record that so many of the greats have got, whether it be Ford Ice and Alan Robb and all the greats that have gone before us with all their multiple wins and things like that. But my record as a runner is pretty outstanding, for me, and we've all got a certain amount of talent. We all have a talent continuum, and you sit somewhere from Fordyce maybe right near the top, and I would be maybe 2/3 of the way up, and then somebody might, sit right near the bottom, and with due respect, there's some 11 hours or 11 and a half hour runners there that they could train day and night, for a year, which wouldn't be clever, but they could do that and still not run much better than, say, 10 hours or 10 and a half hours. I'm sure they could improve, but you're given some talent. It's in your genes. Bruce Fordyce wrote a beautiful book, a little book called The Comrades. It was a little handbook like this, and the first words in that book are, "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for the genes," because that's it. You are who you are.
He's small. He's like my size. I've met him before here in Belito.
Yeah, man. He's like a twig, man. He's absolutely.
Actually, I met him. I started the park run here in Belito.
Yes.
And he came along, obviously, to get the whole thing launched with me. And at that time, he was battling with his knees.
Yeah.
I think he's your age, is he?
Bruce is. We're very close. We're about a year apart. Yeah.
I think he still struggles a little bit with his knees. I remember the one Comrades, he had to do pull training, and it was up and down. He could barely run, but he still did a great time. Obviously, ran into quite a bit of pain, but. That's just something that we really want to know from you. Like, how have you kept your body in mint condition, and how have you managed to do all these consecutive Comrades? Because it must be such planning. I mean, you plan your whole life around it. You can't even travel now over this time because you've got to be back for the race.
Yes, I think you do start to divide up your time accordingly. That you don't just summarily go overseas in June when Comrades, you'd plan to go overseas in July. You would.
When you can walk again.
Yeah, Comrades kind of is part of your life. It's certainly been a massive part of my life, but it's always been my sport, not my life. I've had a fantastic business life. I've run some great businesses and had some great business partnerships and things like that. I've had a wonderful family life, 2 family lives, in fact. And I'm married and divorced, so I've got one family from before, and now remarried, and a son between myself and Debbie. But those have been such fulfilling parts of my life. And Comrades and running has only ever been my sport. It's never been the be all and end all of my life. It's a huge part of my life. It has to be. With 47 Comrades, it has to be a big part of your life. But it's not the be all and end all. It's my enjoyment. The carrying on of Comrades is completely, in my mind, wrapped up with running as a sport. The camaraderie of running in the sport. Why do I go and run in the morning? Because I go out and run with
your friends,
Leah and Nick and Ross and Wazza, my mate, and all the nonsense and the bullshit that goes on in the morning, and the stories that get told, and the Sunday morning long runs, which are hard, and you go and run 40 Ks and through the hills of Belito here and surrounding. It's tough going. But you've got a second in car every 5Ks, and there's the nonsense and the stories that get told.
Actually, such a pleasure.
That is what running's all about, and that's why we come back.
Definitely, I think we had this chat. Leah and I spoke about it the other day of like what wellness is, and there's different pillars of wellness. And to be completely well, you've got to be sort of balanced between all of them. You can't be so obsessed and focused with one thing. And I think, maybe had you been so focused and obsessed just with Comrades and it was your life, not your sport, then you probably wouldn't have been where you are now. I don't think you would have managed 47 consecutive.
No, because that pressure becomes too big. If it became, like off camera earlier, you said to me, when did you have to run them all consecutively?
When did you realize?
And my answer was almost never. Almost never. Not until, look, the last couple of years have become, it's been a little bit bigger in my mind, because it would be lovely to run my whole career consecutively. I've got a couple of little, I'm an old timer, and I'm old fashioned in a lot of my Comrades ways, and I don't really believe in the 12-hour cut-off time for Comrades, although it was the original time for Comrades. A lot of people don't know that. The first Comrades, you had 12 hours. But the accepted time of Comrades was 11 hours. And all 47 of my Comrades have been under 11 hours. So I've never gone over 11. I know if I can, I really want to go over 11. So, those little sort of old-fashioned things come into your mind. And one of those was now, well, hell, it would be really nice to be consecutive. But that's a much, much later thing. Never in my mind did I ever worry about that before. It was just my sport, which I loved, and I loved the thing that brings you back to Comrades is, first of all, I think the camaraderie, the enjoying the training. You've got to love your training. I mean, nobody can go and train for 5 months and do, I used to do, most years I'd be doing 1,900, 2,000 Ks in training from January through to May. So it's a lot of commitment. There's a lot of running. And so if you're not enjoying it, if that's not a reason to get up in the morning,
you can't do it begrudgingly.
No, exactly. And I mean, most of my running was done in Joburg. The greater part of my was in Johannesburg winters.
Definitely not like running in Ballito.
Where often in the morning in Joburg it would be, with the wind chill factor, it would be -3. Wow. -3, and you've got a beanie on and gloves, and so you've got to love running and the camaraderie of running. If it became that I just had to train because I was running another Comrade, I think you're right. I think I would never have stayed the distance.
Do you have any sort of mental coaching or mental preparation? Like, do you meditate? Do you believe that there's a part of your psychology that makes you specifically unique in a sense that you've been able to achieve what you have, or could anybody do it if they had a certain characteristic or determination?
Anybody can do it. I'm not special. No,
What sort of traits do you think you need besides like dedication or motivation?
Dedication is encapsulated in a huge way. You have to be dedicated. I mean, yes, you have to. I talk about that and we didn't talk about that balance when you say I'm really tired now and I must rest. So is that good guy here saying, hey, on the shoulder here, look, you really are tired, you must rest? Or is this bad oak saying, yeah, come on, just sleep in, man. Just, come on, you don't have to, hey, you don't have to run again today. Why? So there's that bad oak always who's talking in the ear. They're saying, come on. So there's that's where the dedication side comes in, where so you've got to be dedicated, absolutely. But in terms of the other reason, that going back to the reasons why you carry on running Comrades, is then to start achieving. Because I think that you'll run one Comrades, you'll run a second, obviously, because the up and the down Comrades are two totally different races.
You need your back-to-back medal, of course.
I've never run a back-to-back medal. We didn't get those things in those days. I mean, there were none of those things, So I don't own a back-to-back medal. So
very interesting.
But I should own 20 something of them.
24.
24 of them. Yeah. But so you run the one, you run the second one, because the only commonality between the up and the down runners, they both run on the R103. That's the only similarity. I mean, they are so totally different races that you have to experience both. And once you've experienced both, I think you're going to start getting, if you're liking it and you're enjoying the training and that's satisfying you, then you're going to start to become a bit more competitive, because we've all got a bit of a competitive streak in us.
That's what hooks you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the hook. You're quite right. So I knew from my times of all my shorter distance races, I knew that I could run. I knew that I'd been given some talent, not as much as likes of Fordas, but I'd been given some talent. And you start to become a little bit more determined, I think, to use that talent, because and I'll digress here slightly, but in a lot of the talks that I do and things like that, the one thing that I really try and talk about is the fact that what I want you to be, no matter what time you are running a Comrades, if you're a 7-hour Comrades runner or a 9-hour Comrades runner or an 11-hour Comrades runner, I want you to be the best 9-hour runner that you can be.
And know that you have reached the fullness of your God-given potential.
Absolutely. Wherever your talent, you might not have been given what Fordas was given or what I was given or anybody else. Whatever you were given, to use that, then you make me a very happy person. If you use your potential to its fullest degree. When we've run our couple of Comrades and we've gone through our apprenticeship and we've got rid of most of our injuries and we're now starting to run a bit more free and enjoy our running, then you start to get challenged by time, because it's a timed race, and there's that wonderful thing called the silver medal, and you know, not everybody can run a silver. In the old days, it used to be approximately 10% of the field were able to get silver. Nowadays, it's down to 5 or 6%. It's because running's got a lot lazier. So if you can aspire to that, and you've got the talent, and then you add the correct training to that talent, you should be able to go for a silver. But if you haven't got that, but you can get a Bull Rowan, and you're a 10-hour runner, and you can get under 9 hours, which is a Bull Rowan medal, fantastic. There's something to aspire to in Comrades all the time, and that's why, you know, I'm quite scathing about the CMA a lot of the time. In the old days, they used to be, I likened them to dinosaurs. They just never changed. They never ever changed. Right back to the days of Fordas, when Fordas was advocating to say, please, we are elite runners. You've got to let us go in the front. We've got to get away. I'm going to be running this race at 3:45 a K, and you want me to go and stand 1,000 people back? You know, you're killing us. You know,
crazy that was even an argument.
And it was an argument. And you know, I'm an elite runner, but to get in the front, I've got to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, sort of thing. But I'm now going to be going racing, and he advocated to having the elite. Oh, Comrades never let that. Oh, and then finally one day they said, oh yes, it's a great idea. Let's have an elite pen at the front. You know, so Comrades never changed. You know, but the one change they have done now, more recently over the years, fantastically, is add in the new medals. So they added. I mean, if you think about it, you got a gold medal from 1 until 10. Okay, that was based on position. Then from position 11, no matter what the time was, until 7.5 hours, you got another medal, which was a silver. Okay, and then from 7.5 hours to the end of the race, you got a bronze. So you could be a 7:35 runner, which is pretty damn good.
Yes.
And you could be, you know, like 10 hours 55, and you got the same medal. And then Comrades brought in, obviously, the Bull Rowan, which was fantastic, because now that every 10-hour runner could now have something to aspire to. That 10-hour runner maybe could never get to be a silver medalist. Didn't have the genes. Weren't given the genes, like Fordas said. Didn't have the parents, you know. But they could now get to a Bull Rowan by doing the right training, etc., etc. And then Comrades now, they went to the front of the field and said, hold on, now there's that guy that didn't get in the first 10, but he ran 5:45 or 5:50. You know, to run 5:50 at Comrades is just beyond, it's insane. It's so fast, you know, over 90 kilometers. And yet he got that same silver medal that I might have got with a 7:25, you know, which is, they're in a different, they're on a different planet. And so then they brought in the Wally Hayward medal if you break 6 hours. So there was another incentive guy for that guy that maybe his best is 6:15, 6:20, And maybe he's got the talent and he can say, can I get under 6 hours? Can I break? I can never win the race. I can more than likely never get a gold medal, but I can get under 6 hours. So what comes into keeping us coming back
is that competition.
Is that incentivizing ourselves.
Yes.
It's all about you and what you can do, you know.
I want to know more about Comrades, but you said something interesting about the down and the up being so different, and I've heard this before a few times. Like, how is it different on your body? Taxing wise, is the up more taxing, down more taxing?
So in the days when I was racing Comrades really hard, I've often said that I hated the down run more than I hated my mother-in-law, and well, that's my old mother-in-law. She's dead now, so my new one might see it, so I'll be careful. But it was just a bit of fun, but to say that that's how hard the down run was for me, because 6'2.5", 6'3", a tall guy, used to weigh a bit more than I weigh now, so I used to race Comrades at 87, 88, 89 kgs. So the down run was just unbelievably punishing. I mean, it was, I couldn't walk for 3-4 days. Literally couldn't. I mean,
knee pain or just muscle pain?
Just muscle pain. Your muscles are smashed.
Fatigue.
Just smashed. Your quads are just smashed. Because if you look at the profile of Comrades, I mean, it comes and it undulates, and if on the down run, undulates and undulates and undulates, and you've got some serious climbing on the down run. And then from Hillcrest, it's just straight down. You've got some bumps in the way, but it's just seriously down. And if you run 30 kilometers racing down those hills, you just land up smashed. So, I used to really hate the down run. The up run is very, very hard because you're climbing so much. I mean, the reverse is true. When I talk to people about running Comrades and mentoring them and stuff like that, and especially if I'm talking to somebody about racing the up run, I said, you need to understand that the first half of the up run is the hardest marathon in South Africa as a standard marathon. First half of the Comrades is 45 kilometers, so take 42 k's as a marathon. It's the hardest marathon in South Africa. And you're going to run that one, and then another one, and a bit more at the end just for fun. So it puts into context how hard the up run is just in terms of sheer climbing, and the down run is just in sheer damage. So you finish an up run, even racing in my racing days, finish an up run, next morning walking around, not even a discussion. No, could have actually gone for another run.
And what do you feel different there than quads, calves, maybe glutes?
Yeah, your whole body just gets tired. I used to find on Comrades, I'll be honest with you, when I was racing Comrades, my whole body was sore. My diaphragm was sore because just when you're breathing hard for 7 hours or 7.5 hours or 10 hours or whatever the case.
Impact, that's one
and that impact, because the impact goes. You as a guy that works in the business that you work in understand the stresses through and what a loading is going through your ankles and your knees, your joints, what's going through your hips. I mean, the pounds per square inch, the pressure going of a foot landing is just unbelievable. The mechanics of that, the science of that is just incredible. That a body can take that much. I mean, the fact that our bodies can run 90 k's it doesn't cease to amaze me.
So build us up to that, because I think there's a great transition now. How do we train for that? So what would you say? I'm not a runner. How would I train now? I've got a year to train to Comrades next year. What would start me off?
I will say to you that I could take you from absolutely zero to running Comrades in a year. I think if you're a young person your age, I'd get you there in 6, 7, 8 months quite easily.
Confidently.
Because Comrades is just a layering thing. It's just people, after all these years, when I start my training program for Comrades in January, mentally, if I look at running a marathon, 42, even now today, I say, how am I going to run 40 Ks? How am I going to go and run 40 Ks? Because you've just run, say, 10 Ks and you're tired. And your knees are a bit sore, but you're tired, So, but what happens is you start, it's like everything. You start slowly, easy, and you build up. We've got a really nice percentage that works, that as you're going up and you're training, say I started you in January and you're going to train for 5 months for Comrades. And by the way, you can't train for much longer than that. Anything longer as a training program is counterproductive. You can't train for Comrades for a year. If you train for Comrades in a training program, you'd land up on the start line completely buggered. You'd be too tired. So the true training period for Comrades is actually only 10 weeks. You only take 10 weeks, key weeks, so you've got a build-up.
It would help if you were strong and fit before that.
Yeah, you should have a base, obviously, but in your program you would have a build-up period, and obviously you'd have a cutback period right at the end, which is at least 3 weeks, and you'd have 3 to 4 weeks and then your key 10 to 12 weeks in the middle. That's the only time you're retraining for Comrades. But if you start out and say you run 40 Ks in your first week, now even as a young guy like you, I could get you to run 5 times in that week, averaging 8 kilometers, and you actually manage it. So if you ran 40 Ks in that week, the second week you're not going to run 60 Ks. I can assure you, totally counterproductive. We add 15% a week maximum. So your 40 wouldn't become more than about 45, 46 Ks in the next week. And after that, so you see how long, obviously like compound interest, 15% is working quite quickly, and it'll get you quite quickly up to, let's say, 70 Ks. But any training program I write would go with plateaus. So you go like that, and then like that, and then up there, and then like that, and then up there. So you're plateauing all the time. In that plateau, it gets you the time to get stronger. So, for example, you'd run then, let's say, 3 weeks in a row of 60 Ks. You're not going 60, 65, 70, 75, You're getting 60 Ks, so your body getting stronger over 60 Ks. And 3 weeks later, suddenly 65 or 70 Ks becomes relative.
So, because now on that plateau, you've gotten so good at running 60 Ks.
Exactly.
Your week 1 versus your week 3 are going to be so vastly different.
Totally.
Now your body needs that extra to adapt.
Extra, 100% right. And then, and obviously, just depending on what you're training for, what kind of time you're training for, as I said, I use this word a lot, counterproductive. There's a lot of things that I put into training programs, and I say, don't do that because that's counterproductive. More is not more. Often less is more. So you would go as a new runner, going to just go and run a Comrades for your first time, unless you're an exceptional athlete and your first time out you're going to say, hey, I'm running 7 hours, so I'm running 6:45. And there's people like that. There have been lots of people like that in history. They're rare, but yes. So we're not talking about that person, because that's a person obviously with exceptional athletic ability already.
They're the outlier.
There's been guys that have come to run Comrades as a novice and have run gold. They've nearly won the Comrades. So those are out of the thousands.
Exception,
those
not
are
the rule.
Absolute exceptions. They're not the rule. But as Miss Joe Average coming along run, we're not going to get you to run ever more than 100 kilometers in a week. Ever, maybe 80, because beyond that is counterproductive again. But go back to your first question. Could take somebody and with a proper training program with all the rest built in, you could take that person and get them to run Comrades, because the weekly program doesn't change a lot. The weekly program, what you're running in the morning, you might run 8 Ks, and then very quickly you'll get to 10. And those 10s, or maybe 12s at times, will stay right through, all the way through to April, to May. It's what's changing is the weekend. So you start running, and you're running 15 Ks, and then you're running 20, then 20. And it's just a layering effect. You put another layer on, another layer on. It's almost like building a cake. And the next thing you know it, you've made the cake, because you've put layer upon layer upon layer on. And next thing your Sunday program and your club says we're doing 40 Ks on Sunday, and you say, well, that's fabulous, great.
Can't wait.
Bring on the seconds, and can't wait. Absolutely, looking forward to it. Whereas, and as I said, still me today. If I sit back in January and say 40 Ks, oh my God, how? That's madness,
So I was running the Comrades Marathon.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us don't understand how amazing this race is and why it is such a special race, and the unique opportunity for people living around the Durban area to just have such easy access to run a special race like this. So tell us a little bit more about Comrades.
And also, Barry, sorry, just to include in that question of yours, we've spoken about how someone can go from not having run competitively to now doing a Comrades within a year's space. I don't think people would have known that that's even possible. But in your speech, you've made a very clear distinction between running and racing. And would you say that that plays an important role for anybody going into understanding what the demands of Comrades is?
Yeah, I think they're locked up together in the same question there. To encapsulate why would somebody want to run Comrades and come back to carry on running? Simply put, Comrades is the greatest road race in the world. Now, ever since the early to mid 1970s, when we had the running explosion in the world, a guy called Jim Fix in America, and the running explosion happened, where runs were long distance races were for the really stupid people. I mean, these idiots that ran 40 kilometers or something like that, and then suddenly the bug bit and running literally was a worldwide running explosion, and obviously South Africa was part of that. But we had this incredible race called the Comrades, the unique thing called the Comrades.
And by that time, it was quite established already as well.
Although it was established. If you look at what now we've got, fields of 20 to 25,000 people running Comrades today. My first Comrades, it was less than 1,000. There was 900 and something in my first Comrades in 1973. And the explosion was just happening at that time, 73, 74, in those years. But the world still recognized that here was this very, very special thing that ran, as we spoke just now, up and down, so two totally different races, and the uniqueness of running 90 kilometers, 90 on the down, 87 on the up, and just that unique, because there were other tougher races throughout the world. There are some insane races through, deserts and
the likes of your 100-milers.
There's some crazy things, but they've got such tiny, limited fields. They've got a field of maybe 200 runners or 250 runners or whatever, even after the running explosion had taken place. And here was this unique race called the Comrades that was over mountains. As we know, on the up run there are five famous hills. There, I've always said in Comrades, when people say how to run the up run and about the hills, and say, well, don't worry about the hills with the names. It's the hills with no names are the ones that are going to grab you, because the hills with the names shouldn't ever scare you, because they're there. But they're monsters. In Changa is 2.5 kilometers long. Fields Hill is 3.2 kilometers. Poly Shorts, which you run on the up run with 8 Ks to go, is 1.8 Ks.
Quite a deceiving name. It's not short.
It's not short. But so we've got this unique race with all this incredible history from 1921. That said. Built up almost, I think the word would be an aura. It's got an aura around it. So if you live in Durban, if you live in Natal, people come from all over the world to run Comrades. On the start line of any Comrades nowadays, I don't know what the count is, but there's people there from more than likely 30, 40 different countries on the start line of any Comrades nowadays. But if you're a Durban runner, I just think it's in your DNA. You've got to run it. It's just part of who you are. If you're a runner, you've got to get there.
Definitely something special about growing up in Durban or even South Africa and Comrades. Just you watch it on TV with your family growing up. There's something there. I think we all deep down inside want to try it. Sometime in our life.
Well, here's a terrible statistic for you. That I've never watched Comrades on TV.
I can't see that you've had the time
Comrades,
to do that.
No, TV came to South Africa in 1976. I'd already been running Comrades for 3 years. So I've never watched Comrades on TV live on the day, ever. Because I've been running Comrades since before TV came to the country. So it's definitely got an aura about it.
Yes.
And that is obviously built around the unique hardness of the race. It's a very, very tough race to run, both physically and mentally, more mentally than physically. And it's a very tough race to race. It's a hard enough race to run. And it's an even harder race to race. And we'll come back onto that point now, but but I think what adding to that uniqueness are the spectators out there. Now, they're spectators the entire length of 90 kilometers, and yes, they are sometimes few and far between in certain spots. There's a famous sections of the race where there's very, very few spectators and things like that. Yeah, you know, you get a thing called Harrison Flats, which is just after the halfway mark and going towards Cato Ridge, which is, I say, it's one of the great wonders of the world, because it seems to be uphill both ways, whether you're running up or the down, because it's just a shocking piece of tar. There's no spectators there. It's normally hot, and it's called Harrison Flats, and it's just horrible. But the spectators on Comrades are a unique part of it, and I've always thought that they're very knowledgeable. You know, they talk about sporting crowds being knowledgeable. They'll say, like, for example, that the Australian cricket crowds are knowledgeable. They know their cricket. So when they comment or they talk or whatever, because they know cricket, they're not just people. They're not just there to watch cricket. So and I just think Comrades is like that. Comrades spectators generally are gone out there since they were 12 years old or something, and they've been watching with their moms and dads, and they eventually grow up, and one day they say, yes, they'd love to run this race. But even if they don't run the race, they're out there with their hampers, their picnic hampers, and they park on the side of the road, and a couple of beers at lunchtime, and they've got the skottel out, and they're braaiing, and you know, it's just unique.
It's really fun. I mean, I've done it a couple times. I said, just from school, and even in varsity days, we'd go work massaging and strapping and helping out, and it really is an awesome day out. Like, I'd highly recommend it. If someone's here in that time, it's one of those things. You just got to go and see and be a part of it. It's inspirational. I think I said to you off camera, I was like, once you've been there and watched one, you just want to run.
There's such a lasting impression from that day. And I mean, I've only been on the spectator side, and it changes you. It changes your entire outlook on the race and the amazing people who choose to run it. But just like you said earlier off camera as well, you know, there's such an intimate exchange between the runner and the spectator, and it's however brief and fleeting it may be, you know, it makes the race.
It is unique. It is the race. It's a unique, incredible thing, as you say, Leah, that you run past these people, and often you're running quite fast if you're racing. Sometimes you're going hell of a slowly if you're walking, but you're still mostly going forward, and therefore you'll go past one person, and it's almost a millisecond relationship, but it's incredibly bonding, and you can't do that race without them, and they are, well, obviously they don't have a day out there unless they've got all these thousands of people, but that bond is just quite amazing. You know, Comrades is so hard. I don't know that you can actually run it and enjoy it without those people out there. They're fantastic.
Have you ever been close to pulling out, stopping? I mean, you must have had some injury in these years.
Yes, I have. I came very close with my shin splints in, I forget the year, but I walked home from Pinetown, and that was a terrible time for me, and you know, thought I'd really had blown it, and there's other times when I've been really very, very tired, and because you know, there's a term that we use in running, that if you blow, so if the engine blows up, if you've gone out too fast, you know, if you've burnt all those matches, you can't relight them. You know, they say that you can't put bullets back in a gun, and
in the wall.
Yeah, exactly, and
beyond.
Absolutely, and if that happens, it can be a very, very long day out there, it's I think just it's a testament to Comrades runners and who they are and how mentally tough they are, that they can still get home in the most trying of circumstances, the most, you know, and you can be dehydrated, and you know, I've sat down in somebody's chair on the side of the road and just said, you know,
I'm done.
I'm not saying I'm done. I'm not saying I'm out the race, but I'm saying I got to sit here for a while, and I've sat there for 20 minutes, you know, and then those horrible thoughts start to say, oh, should I just get out?
Sit with them for too long.
But then that will to say, you know, there's no way I'm sitting here. Get up and you got to go. So you can have those times. You can have those times. I mean,
it's actually your spectators that can bring you back from, like you say, hitting the wall or blowing, you know, just that kind word from a stranger or someone offering up their chair.
Absolutely. Yeah, they just, and as I said, it goes back to the knowledge of those people. They are just incredible. They will find you a chair, they'll find you something to drink, they'll find you something to eat. Just absolutely amazing.
What's happening this year? We got interesting times, obviously COVID-19, we got Comrades right in the middle of this. What's going to happen?
Well, unfortunately, Comrades is cancelled. So it was postponed, and there was a great hope amongst the runners that they could find a date later in the year. I said that they should not take it beyond the end of September because of the concern with the weather, with the heat. I mean, we've had incredibly hot Comrades in June. But you just, obviously, statistically, you push your chances of having a dramatically hot Comrades if you went into October or November, and you could really potentially start killing people. Because
and also with that timeline, Barry, I mean, you've placed a lot of emphasis on the importance of rest, and one of the most important parts of running a Comrades is the rest period, which ensures you can run after the year after again, like you have every year on year. And had they put it out any later, do you think that the probability of hosting the very next Comrades would be affected?
It would be affected, I think. Look, I mean, not everybody is as regimented as I've been over my years, and I honestly, it's a massive reason why I'm still running, nearly 50 years later, is because I've always had a rest after Comrades. It's varied between 2.5 months and 6 weeks, depending on how well I've run Comrades and whether it was an up or down, how damaging it was. Normally longer rest after Comrades after a down run because of the damage to the legs, and shorter on the up run. But I've always had that rest. That's been absolutely no running whatsoever. Nothing. Don't
Feet
put the shoes in the thing, and not even 5Ks, not even running around the grass track at the school. Nothing. Just no running whatsoever. And I think that's allowed me to recover. So your point is well taken that I don't think it would have allowed that recovery time the later you pushed it in the year. But yeah, they called it. Comrades had to, the CMA had to be governed by the ASA, Athletics South Africa, which are then in turn governed obviously by the government. And eventually it was called that it would be cancelled for the year. So, look, a lot of people have said to me, how does that affect your record? Well, it doesn't affect the record at all. It's still
Comrades isn't happening.
It's Comrades not happening for anybody. So at the end of the day, next year I'll be running the next Comrades.
You're 48.
Yeah. I mean, Comrades was not run. The only time this has ever happened in history was the 5 years of the war, Second World War. It's the only other time since 1921 that Comrades was cancelled.
It puts it into perspective, what kind of thing we're dealing with.
Well, we are fighting another world war, aren't we?
100%.
Effectively, COVID
from an economic, from a health standpoint, for so many different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, terrible statistic, but they've just gone over the 100,000th death in America. And COVID has killed more people in America that died in the whole of the Vietnam War, combined with the Korean War, combined with the war in Afghanistan. Wow. Three war theaters have killed less people than COVID have killed.
In this short space of time.
Yeah, so no, it's not something we could take lightly.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so Comrades has got that aura. It's got that uniqueness about it, and will draw you back because you want to be competitive. And we need to touch again on your point, Leah, about running and racing Comrades, because they're two very different things. You can just go and run Comrades. It's hard mentally, hard physically. I've always said that it's 30% in the legs, 70% here between your ears. But racing is a whole new ballgame. The biggest challenge of racing Comrades is, yes, you've got to get fit, you've got to run now, work through the correct training program, get advised by somebody like myself with my vast knowledge, and obviously I've been writing training programs all my life, and I've had some success at running Comrades, so yes, I know something about the whole training regime and what to do and what not to do. So you've got to do all of that. The racing side of Comrades is the ability to concentrate for all that time, because you can't race unless you can concentrate, seriously concentrate. So if you are running trying to run a silver. You've got your plan. We've got this famous saying that you plan your race and race your plan. Okay, so you must plan your race. I can almost get cross when I'll say to somebody just before Comrades, so what are you going to run? And they'll say, well, I'd like to run a silver. And I'll say, well, that's the most idiotic statement I've ever heard in my life. That is actually stupid. I said, because I'd like to go and have a cup of coffee. That's the like you'd have to, that's liking something to go and do. Because it's like, maybe I do and maybe I don't. It's not maybe I go and run a silver or I don't run it. You're either going to do it or you're not. And you better die trying. Or you better give everything on the day. So you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a plan in place. You've got to know, I want to be at the halfway time by this. I've got to know the course well. I divide the course up into 5 sections or 5 or 6 sections, and they're divided up into bite-sized chunks. And you've got to have all that knowledge, and you've got to have it. You've got to have sort of almost studied it, and you've got to have a little bit of piece of paper in your pocket, a plan that you need to go be there by that time. So you've got to have a plan, and then once you get out there on the day, you've got to race that plan. You can't throw it out the window. You've got to have it, and then you've got to race it. And to do that requires you concentrating. And it's bloody hard to concentrate for 7 or 8 hours.
And those are the people who are managing to run for 7 or 8 hours,
So it's hard,
One of my best mates is a military man, and there's a saying there, it's preparation and planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah, there we go. Absolutely. Yeah.
When you're speaking about these things, there are certain characteristics of yours that are unique, and it just does show like you're a special person. There's not just going to be another person to come around and run these 50 consecutive comrades that I'm sure you're going to make.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're going to make. Because I can see already the way you sort of dissect the challenge, break it up, have all your,
huge
and
amount
also
of
the
strategy.
mentality, the way you just said it now, you're like, you're going to run this sort of time, or I'm going to do a silver.
You must believe.
And I think that is the problem with a lot of people that come into these things. It's too casual. There's no real, I'd like to do it, There's got to be more of a commitment.
I'm doing it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You must, belief is just, but I'll say this to you as well. And I don't think it's unique to Comrades. It's part of life.
I agree.
Aren't these the lessons of life? Definitely. I mean, I've done a lot of public speaking, and I've spoken to, for example, done a lot of running speaking, comrade speaking, obviously, because that's what I know a lot about. But I've also then, my son went to Kearsley College, and Kearsley had a long, in-depth history with Comrades, because obviously the school is right on the course, and the boys on that weekend, as you know, it's a boarding school, and the boys that weekend, it's what they call a closed weekend. They're not allowed to go home. They're required to be at the school, and they're required to be out on the road. They're fully dressed in their uniforms. It's just, it's part of folklore.
Part of the whole culture.
And obviously they knew who I was and my record and everything like that. So they asked me to come and speak at Assembly. I've spoken at Assembly a couple of times. And what I do is I take what I normally say to runners, and I just change it effectively for a school environment. So all those lessons are, they key lessons, and I've done it for business, because it's no different in business, really, And if you take, like in running, I say there's 3 pillars that hold up a runner. There is his talent, right? There's his training, his or hers, and there is then how good their head is. Okay, there's only 3 things that are going to affect you on the day when you're racing, and whether you're going to achieve that time, if you're going to get that silver or that 9 hour or that 10 hour, whatever you're racing for, wherever your talent level is. As we said, you can't change your talent. Your talent is your talent. So when I'm talking to a school, I can say, well, we've got 600 boys here listening to me. How many are natural A students? Not all of them. Very few of them, in fact. How many duckses are we going to have? We only have 1 dux in the school, one cleverest boy in the school. And there might be 2 or 3 that are vying for that spot. But the greater majority, they weren't born with that IQ. They just weren't born with that IQ. So I wasn't born with Fordyce's talent. I wasn't born with Elon Musk's brain power, But so everyone again is on that continuum of IQ, from some stupid people in the world to some incredibly, Stephen Hawkins, So we're not all the same. And then if you take, I say, then you've got your training program. Now your training program, so training is then the same as learning. A learning program, do I learn properly? Do I plan my lessons properly? Or do I just go and open a book and, don't have any planning in terms of how I learn, And then obviously there's finally, as I said, as a runner, is your mental application. How strong are you mentally on the day? How can you concentrate? Can I really believe? Am I strong enough to really believe in getting something? And the same thing as a lightie, at school, that when I'm talking to them, I'll say, you need to believe in yourself, And that's how I go back to that point I made earlier. And I'll say to guys at a school, I say, listen, I don't care if you're a C student. Maybe that's who you are. But I promise you, I want you to be the best C student that you can be. You be the best you can be, and nobody can ask more. Your parents can't ask more. Your master can't ask more. Your headmaster can't ask more. You can't ask more of yourself. You can't have an IQ bigger than you're not Stephen Hawkins. You're not going to be Stephen Hawkins. If you live for 100 years, you can make yourself cleverer. Of course you can. You can study. You can get cleverer. But you are who you are at the end of the day. And so we talk about all of those things about and how the longevity and staying in Comrades like that. But if you apply all those principles, then I don't think it's a difficult thing,
Yeah. I think listening to you is it's awesome. It's nice, and there's definitely a generational, not a gap, but I can hear the way you're speaking is so different to what I'm hearing on a usual daily basis, just inside our workplace. And there's a uniqueness to it too. There's a quality that you have where you give so much meaning and thought, and you've made something like Comrades so special because you've studied it so much and you've sort of adopted it into your lifestyle, and there's like just a special sense of caring about something more, where I think like in our day and age it's too easy to have like we get everything quickly, and so
age of instant gratification.
Age of instant gratification. So it's sort of like Comrades is just another thing. We haven't taken it on and sort of
that
loved it.
Value proposition,
become passionate about it.
Exactly. Which is a huge thing for success, and it also leads on to like you just being the best Barry you can be. And I think you've really learned that throughout your life.
And lived it as well.
Exactly. So you're not Elon Musk. You don't have to try and be him. But
what
you're going to do is just be the best version of Barry.
That's right.
If you die and come back as Paris Hilton, then you'll be that.
Not sure I want to do that. But that's 100% right. I think if there's a lesson, or one of greatest life's lessons, or just be the best you can be. So I've asked my children and just said to my kids, be the best that you can be. They're all different.
Do they run?
Huh?
Do they run?
Some of them run. Yeah, my middle daughter ran Comrades with me, not last year, year before. Yeah. No, that's Kelly. That's my eldest stepdaughter. She ran Comrades with me on my 40th. So my son Ryan has run. So a whole bunch of my kids have run, and my son Ross runs, but he hasn't run Comrades yet. But yeah,
that's brilliant.
There was something that you touched on, and I think it would make for quite an interesting question to you, and it was also a generational gap that is definitely there, and the planning, the importance of actually having a plan is one of those pillars that you have spoken about. And how has that changed over the years for you with the introduction of new technologies? Where has that gone for you?
Funny enough, I'm enjoying it quite a bit more nowadays. I mean, yes, I run with a Garmin, and I quite enjoy. I'm nowhere like the young guys in our club. I mean, it takes me half an hour to set this thing up for a training. I mean, you guys do it in seconds. I'm still looking and trying and whatever. So yeah, I'm like a dinosaur, and I accept that. But I'm enjoying. So I'll look at my average heart rate and stuff like that. Those are all things we just knew. We knew them instinctively.
Intrinsically, yeah.
We knew them instinctively, So I've always had a really lovely low heart rate. I mean, still today, I've got a resting heart rate of 44,
That's very
43
impressive.
sometimes. Yeah, no. And when I run, my average heart rate when I run, most of my runs, 135, 134.
That's me in warm-up.
yeah. So that's my average, I mean, I did Fartlek this morning. I did a quality session this morning, and I think my average heart rate was 147 or something. So, so I've always been blessed with that. I knew those things instinctively before.
You could feel them.
I mean, when I started running Comrades, we didn't even have watches.
Yes.
You had a watch that told the time, but you didn't have a stopwatch. Stopwatch was a thing that you went click like this with. I mean, that was the only thing that stopped and started the time or something like that. So we never had those things.
And there was no official time.
So if you wanted to go and run a silver, you got to run 5 minutes a K. So if you wanted to go and run 5 minutes a K, you had to know what 5 minutes a K was. So we that got inbred. It was more instinct than watches. So I've never been a big technology guy. The youngsters today will, but I still quite enjoy. I'll go and look at on Strava, and then I'll go and look at what I did here and what my laps were and whatever. So which is quite fun. But for me, it's more of a fun thing. I don't do a lot of training by it. I'll look at it and know that if my average heart rate was suddenly up, then I would say, "Hey, are you getting sick?" That would be an indicator. But I used to know that anyway instinctively. That came just from
learning and experiencing.
Just running, just experience.
And I think that we've touched on this and the lessons that you learn through running, and it's amazing that with the lack of technology that people were able to do these things. But like you said as well, there's so many options out there, and often our generation forgets to listen and learn the important lessons from things. And something that I've heard on the road running with you, having the honor of running with you on the road, is our service years and the lessons that you learn in those service years, and often those are accompanied by injuries. And how relevant is that for every runner, that apprenticeship?
Totally relevant. I can't emphasize enough that your first 3 years are your apprenticeship years. You serve 3 years as apprenticeship as a runner. You will normally get all of your running injuries in those 3 years, and even if you're clever, you're still going to get them. It's just a case of your body hardening. It's your body hardening up. All of your ligaments and everything just hardening up, getting tougher, getting used to all this pounding, this running, this strain of training. Even if you are like I've asked people to be clever runners, it's still going to happen. You're still going to get an Achilles. You're still going to get a bit of ITB. I've had every single one of those things, but I haven't had one of those injuries for decades. Literally, it's now measured in my time of decades. I haven't had those injuries simply because if I feel something, then I know immediately that I've tried to push too hard too soon. And they will always come normally by going too quickly too soon. So not going that nice build up of 15%, like I said, going 40, 45, not trying to go 40 to 60 Ks or 70 Ks in a week type of thing. And at the moment you try and do those things, that's when you're going to get injuries now for a person like myself after all these years. So I don't get injured nowadays.
You've learned those lessons.
Yeah, you've learned those lessons. But you're going to have that, and you have to serve it. You have to serve. If you want to do this game, you have to serve that apprenticeship.
And how important is nutrition into this, and with the injuries as well, like footwear, talking about shoes? We spoke a little bit off camera about some awesome books, and Leah was telling us about the Nike story, and it's definitely a book we both want to read. I think you just said you just about started, but how
on the shelf waiting.
I look, shoes and the technology of shoes has aided tremendously in helping people not get so injured, because we in my early years of running, we ran a little thing called the Tiger Bostons, which was just a little thin, wafer thin, no support, nothing, no arch supports, no heel supports, nothing, and you just had to be tough. And you legs just had to be strong. So the technology of the shoes has just been exponential, through the whole Nike revolution and
revolutionized the whole game.
Yeah, the whole waffle sole and all of that. So shoes have been are fantastic. I think the nutrition side is fascinating. People used to say to me, so you must have a special diet. And I said, you know what my diet is? I eat what's put in front of me. And that's exactly, I'm not a fussy eater. And I used to put whatever my wife cooked or whatever, what was ever prepared for a meal, that's what I ate.
Seafood diet.
And race day?
Seafood eaten.
Sorry?
Race day, you didn't have anything?
Yeah, no. So then we got into the whole loading thing. So the days of, I mean, there were some amazing things that we did do in our early years, and we did a lot of experimenting, because I tried to be a thinking runner, so I tried to think, how could we get better? And so we used to experiment with sugar. And what that did for us. The guy that worked for me, the guy that was my factory manager, was a diabetic. And therefore, I knew that he used to have to prick his, the diabetic thing in those days was also very, very sort of old-fashioned. He used to prick his finger, get a little bit of blood, and he used to measure it and do that thing. So I said to him, "Hey, Rich, I need to borrow this thing, because we're going to..." So we ran a marathon, three of us. I can still remember it to this day. We ran a marathon, two mates and myself, and we got to like 5Ks, and we pricked our fingers, and we measured our thing, because we had his whole little setup like that. We ran like that, and then we went to 10Ks and 15Ks, and it was quite interesting, because we actually found that my very good friend Louis de Rouge, I was running with a guy called Clive Gilman and a guy called Louis de Rouge. Clive and I raced and ran thousands of kilometers together. And Louis, who is a very, very fine athlete, I mean, he's got a better short distance record than I will ever have. I know that Louis broke 2 hours for 32 Ks on about 6 or 7 occasions. I did it once in my life. Wow. And that's 3:45 a K for 32 Ks. Yeah, so it's quick. And Louis was a terrible long distance runner. I mean, at marathon, he was almost like at his limit, and he was a shocking Comrades runner. So he got 1 silver at Comrades for his talent. Sounds terrible for me to say he's a shocking runner when he got a silver, but for his talent of a sub 2 hour 32K runner, yes. I mean, he should have been blitzing
and
through Comrades.
Absolutely,
that's where his talent level was. And he got, on that same day we did that test, he got to 32 Ks, 30 Ks, and we did the test like that, and his sugar had gone like off a cliff. And it was, so we tried to learn. We didn't have much science, we weren't medical people, but we were trying to learn. And so then Louis would have had to sort of maybe try and take in additional sugar before the cliff came, sort of thing, you know. And then we did things called sugar shots. We ran and we put sugar into Coke. Sugar into Coke. Whoa, it was a nightmare. I reckon it took us about 300 meters to be dehydrated, because you know that much of sugar going into your system just sucks all the water out. Done, gone like that. So we would take the sugar shot, and 300 meters later you could barely walk. So we said, okay, fine, that doesn't work. Leave that one alone, you know. So yeah, I did all the carbo loading. We had the thing in the old days called the Sultan diet. It was a Norwegian, I think he was a Norwegian doctor. And his was the Coke, depletion diet. So you deplete it for 3 days, all not a bit of carbohydrate, nothing, absolutely. So you had fish and salad for supper, and you had nothing, no carbohydrates for 3 days. And I tell you, by the end of that third day, you were climbing the wall. So you had nothing in your system, and then you loaded like hell for 3 days and ate cake and had pasta, and well, there's not much carbohydrate in pasta, but you had potatoes and rice and whatever, and then you went and ran the race. And I thought that actually worked for me. Whether it was mental or physical, what the combination was, mental and physical, but I certainly raced well on that thing. They debunked that whole system afterwards and said you can just carbo load. Forget about the depletion, because the science of the thing was that when you depleted, it dropped your glycogen level, and obviously glycogen is what breaks down lactic acid, and lactic acid is what built up when you are exercising really hard and pushing your muscles. So the whole idea was to try and stop the lactic acid build up, and therefore the glycogen, you wanted glycogen at its highest level in your body possible. And the depletion was supposed to drop your glycogen, and then when you loaded it, shot back up to an artificial level for 24 hours. And that was the science behind the thing, or the theory behind the thing. they debunked that to a large extent and said, listen, you can get your glycogen go up just by the loading thing. So we did all that. And then my story will jump in terms of my nutrition nowadays. My story will jump to about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I was at a terrible low point in my running. In fact, I thought that my record was over. My comrades were over. I was done and dusted. I could barely run. I was running so badly. I couldn't.
Just feeling so bad doing it?
So tired, just so everything. I mean, if I saw a hill, not a hill, a slope, it looked like a mountain to me. I couldn't even think about going up the big hills of Belita. I would walk them. I mean, I was just, I'd got to such a low point that I was ready to give up Comrades. I really was. And so mentally, I was in a real down place. I wasn't doing well at all mentally. And then, I think again the power of the mind, all the things I've used. I sat down and I had a AGM of one. Me myself. I was chairman and secretary and the quorum. So I sat down and I looked at this whole thing and I said, but hold it. You've used the power of your mind racing Comrades. You've achieved whatever you could have possibly done in Comrades. You've got within minutes of every time that you should ever have achieved in your entire running career, simply by using the power of your mind and your strength. And now you're sitting here like what is this sort of thing? So I knew where I was. I didn't know quite how to get out of the hole. But I decided I need to get out of the hole because I thought to myself, I'm not going out. Not like this. When I go out, at the other end of my Comrades career, which is obviously it's very finite now. It's only got years. I don't know how many years, but it's not got decades. It's obviously I'm 68, so it's not got a long time to go. So it's measured in very finite, small amounts of time vis-a-vis where I've come from. I thought, well, I'm not going to go out like a whipped dog with my tail between my legs. I'm just not going to. I want to go out on a high. I want to go out on my terms. Yes. So I made on camera, this is a plug for my great mate Larry Wilson, but he runs a company called Incredible Health, him and Tracy Wilson, his wonderful wife. And I'd been to see Larry once before, but I'd gone on my terms, and you can't go on your terms. I'd gone on my terms, I knew that he told me before I couldn't drink beer and I couldn't do this, and I'd say, no, bugger that, no, hey, I'm Barry Holland, I'll do what I want, sort of thing. Wrong attitude. So I said, okay, I phoned him, made an appointment. I said, I'm coming to see you again. And I walked in and I said, before you say one word, sat down, I said, before you say one word, I'm here 150%. I will do what you tell me to do. I'm here I'm not here on my terms. There's no times. I know that I've had my last beer. He said, yes, you have. I said, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. And I changed my life completely, and basically, totally different way of eating, where I have no sugar, no bread, don't drink beer, drink wine and too much of it at times, but and changed my life completely. And if last year's Comrades is a measure of what that can do for somebody, it was amazing. I mean, I'd run my entire Comrades life, 46 years of running on Coke and water. And obviously Coke is just spiking you. It's just taking you up and dropping you. The more you have, the more you need, and we know that. Now, and I mean, I ran Comrades, whole of it, 87 Ks on the up run with not one sip of Coke, not one sip, water all the way. And we run on a product called Argent Core, which we have at our club tables, which are every 15 Ks. But that's not the part. The butt part is that I ran on body fat. So my body was burning body fat because I was fully in ketosis. Sorry?
Did you eat in the morning before the run?
I ate a little bit, but just very, very little.
What did you eat?
I can't even recall now. What did I eat?
Like a fat or a protein?
Yes, I would have had
peanut butter or something.
Yeah. I don't eat peanut butter, but I would have had something like that. I would have had some cottage cheese or whatever. I would have had some avo or something like that. That's what I have for breakfast every day. Avo, cottage cheese, eggs. So it was a revelation, and I had a fantastic run. If I tell you, I mean, I felt like I felt bulletproof. I finished that Comrades so strong. I mean, there were times when I also walked and I was tired. I mean, there's no magic potion there, you know. But hell, I felt fantastic.
And you looked fantastic. I was there to be testament to that. It was a glorious finish.
It must have had an effect on the way your body releases hormones. So, because I mean, the hormones are how we feel, right? So, you know, if you have happy hormones, you'll feel happy. If you don't have them, you're going to feel depressed or anxious or whatever. So, you know, food is so important. I think people miss out on this and miss out on this information a lot. And it's going to prevent you from being able to achieve the things you want to achieve specifically physically, but even like just in the way you approach life. Like you were saying, you had felt like you had lost the drive or almost, you know? And that is definitely a hormone balance thing. So I mean, these guys, the Wilsons, did a fantastic job, obviously. And we have got some really amazing people around here in Ballito. That
some clever people. They're seriously clever people, and so it to me it was fascinating because I mean to kind of throw 4.5 decades of doing something one way out the window. And then have the proof of the pudding in the eating, because I mean I'm now currently running. I'd say running better than I run in 10 years. Wow. I'm running so well at the moment, loving my running fast again. I haven't been able to run.
Oh, and that's a nice feeling.
You know, I haven't been able to run. It's fast for me nowadays. It's not fast in what I used to run at, but I mean, it's all relative. I mean, I'm 68, so I can't run fast like I used to run. But you know, we did fartlek this morning, and I was touching down below 4 minutes a K. Now I haven't run below 4 minutes a K forever in a day. You know, that's such a lovely feeling to be running so well again and enjoying it. You know, and that's all about changing your life and the way you eat, and you know, primarily eat and you know, not eating your poisons, not eating the things that are wrong for you. You know.
With regards to your statements about, you know, you have a limited amount of potential, and now with the new knowledge that you have of how much your diet can influence that potential as well, would you have changed your eating sooner? And do you believe that it could have made a difference to that finite amount of potential that you know you have?
It's a great question, and I don't know that I fully know the answer. You know, I was a lot younger then, and I think with sheer talent you were able to kind of blur maybe some of those things that you know. I think I would have realized more. But I'm very, very happy, very relaxed in the fact that I was at the edge of my talent wherever, in whatever distance. You know, I ran a 2:39 marathon as my best. The chart says I could have run around about a 2:36 or something like that. So, you know, I'm within minutes. I don't believe I could ever have run. If you take Comrades, for example, people have said, could I have got a gold medal? The answer was no. No, not with any keto diet, not with anything. I didn't have the talent. You know, I didn't have the body size. You know, I mean, Fordyce has won all of his 9 wins at like 51 kilograms. I mean, one of my legs weighs 51 kilograms.
You are a big guy in running terms.
Yeah, but it's an interesting question. Could I have gone quicker? I suspect I might have. But yeah, it's a tough one. You know, what was, and we can't bring it back and change it.
That is a beautiful thing. But
just 2020 vision. But I just love what I'm doing at the moment.
Yes.
And
it's added longevity to your running that you may have suspected, you know, had reached its.
Absolutely, because as I said to you now, when I was in that dark place and saying that I think this could be Comrades was over, you know, people had asked me for years, will I run 50 Comrades? And my standard answer was, guys, I'm not sure. Maybe, but I can't say. I'll take it a year at a time. From the time I changed my attitude and changed my eating, which obviously dropped my weight, because that's a big part of this as well. Drop my weight. I mean, I used to race Comrades at 87 kilograms. I'm currently weighing 80. I'm weighing, you know. So when I went to see Larry, when I went to see him, my first test with him like that, I was 97 6, I think. So I'd put on some weight post Comrades, and so that's a 16k difference between then and now.
Over 90 kilometers.
But you know what that difference makes to your running? It's just incredible, going up hills and stuff like that. So now my standard answer: will I run 50? Absolutely.
Will you write a book at 50?
Yes, I'll update my book.
Here. Yeah. So we're going to have another one.
Yeah, no, I'll take the book and I'll change some of it, but I'll add to it. So I'll add. That book, the front cover shows me in Jeppy colours, and I obviously want to run. I want to have in the book my Dolphin Coast Striders years, because that's been special, So there's some chapters that I missed out even when I wrote that book. I'd like to add back in some things I thought about after we published the book. But certainly the going to 50 and the things we've been talking about, the change that it's taken place with me now and running so much better and stuff like that. Yeah, I think there'd be a lot some nice things to add, because I'm going to 50 for sure. Definitely.
Brilliant. Barry, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for the chat. It's been awesome. I know we could stand on for days. Do you have any lasting questions you want to ask? Definitely. One of the main reasons that we are speaking to you today, Barry, and it's a unique time that we find ourselves in as well, is what is happening with Comrades, if Comrades is not happening or going ahead. And I think that it's an amazing opportunity that we have as your everyday Joes to actually participate in everything that Comrades is this year. And I'd just like to hand over to you to explain to us a little bit more about that and how people can get involved with Comrades this year, where they may have thought that they would never actually own a Comrades medal.
Yeah, there is a lovely thing that the CMA are promoting called the Virtual Comrades. So they're encouraging people to run on the 14th of June, which is the day that Comrades would have been run. Anything from 10 kilometers right through to the 90 Ks of Comrades. There's going to be a couple of idiot people that do that, because everybody should be way short of training, because obviously when Comrades was first of all postponed and then finally cancelled, we all stopped our training. We just went straight back into maintenance training, 10 Ks a day, maybe a slightly longer run on the weekend of 15 Ks or something, but certainly no 25s and 30s and 40s and things like that. So the greater majority, 99% of all runners, should not be prepared to go and run a
So they don't have that build, they don't have that peak period.
So I'm going to be running on the 14th, I'm going to run a 21K, and the whole idea is that as a Dolphins sort of initiative is not to have an event, but to encourage people. We've got like a 5K loop that sits at the bottom of Belito, which is the easiest part of Belito, from Zimbali all the way through to La Belito.
Relatively flat for Belito.
That's the relatively flat part. So we're not going to climb up the hills and get up to the top of Belito. So if you just do multiple laps of that, we're encouraging people to sort of come down. We're going to base it around Concha, and we'll have a table out there where people can put their own bottles. So we're going to be extremely mindful of social distancing and all the sanitizing, and make sure the table is sanitized, and all of those things. People, the spectators that come down, families that might come down and watch, we're going to please say actively stand apart, keep your social distancing, because this virtual Comrades is based on you sending your time into Comrades, based on your Garmin or your Strava or whatever platform,
whichever tracking
you can send that into them. So we can all start at different times. We're going to encourage people to start from any time around about 6:30 or so, when it's just got light and it's nice. Start anytime from between then and 7:30 or whatever, and go and do your 10 or your 21 or your 30 or your 40 or whatever you're going to do. I know a bunch of our guys at the club are going to do a half Comrade. They're going to do a 45K. There's a bunch of them doing that.
Marathon Matt.
I'm doing a 21, and I'm going to try and race it quite hard and try and get under 150, which I haven't done for a long time. But it's going to be a wonderful morning, I think. So we've had a word with the authorities. They relaxed about it. We've emphasized that it's not an event. We're not got this big.
We're not congregating.
We haven't got 150 people all leaving at the same time. So we're keeping it. We're very mindful of the whole COVID threat. Concha on board, so they're going to support, and people can go down there and spectate from there and grab a coffee and whatever, and it could be quite a lot of fun. And I think it's just an opportunity for people all around the world. I mean, I've spoken to my kids in London and said, come, run the virtual Comrades, go and do 20 Ks, whatever you want to do, just, you know, go and do the virtual Comrades, and you are getting an actual medal. When you send your time in, you get an actual medal. So
a physical
and when you think
Comrades.
about that, it's going to be unique. Will there ever be a Comrades medal like it again?
Because it's in 2 weeks' time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I could decide today I'm running Comrades this year. And
yes, you're doing a virtual Comrades, you can go and do 10 Ks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least you feel a part of it.
Very much so.
And maybe inspired
I'm excited.
So the whole idea is
the real one.
the whole idea is to, as you said, Leah, is just to again garner the enthusiasm for running. We've lost Comrades until June next year.
Yes.
Just to gather that impetus again, halfway through the year, and then really hopefully by the end of the year we should get some races back on the calendar. Maybe by October, November we could get some proper running races going again, and then we can be back to almost normality, you know.
And just on that, and you know, all of the excitement and the literal blood, sweat and tears that have gone into the training, and you know, that was cut short for many people. It may have been some people's first race, it may have been some people's last race. You know, it holds a lot of sentiment. So we are obviously 100% on board, whether we're running the 5 or the 45. And what we've also done from our side is we have prepared a program called a Runx Comrades Special Edition, where we would like to also just host a virtual education kind of seminar based workshop to educate people about Comrades, everything that it is, points that we've touched on today, the training, the preparation that goes into it, the strength training, the nutrition. So we'll be hosting that on the Saturday afternoon beforehand. Details will follow. But
Lovely.
you know, we would just also like to encourage people to join in on that. We've got some amazing industry experts that are just so excited to share in that joy. And we know that people are going to be pining the night before and wish they were laying out their Comrades gear. But all in all, we're really excited for that weekend, and we really want to get it out to the masses to just participate in everything that is Comrades.
I think it's going to be great, and it's going to give people a little sense of bringing or retaining Comrades. Although we have to miss it this year, and it's sad. But as we said earlier, we're fighting another world war. So
definitely.
what can you do?
Barry, thanks again for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, guys.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.